Growing up and taking responsibility. Until 30 or 40 years ago, what I did was totally normal. People are radical in their youth and then they stop. That was the pattern of life until the 1960s. Then it changed. In the 1960s, people stopped growing up when they reached their 20s and continued to be teenagers all their lives. Why should they grow up? The world was revolutionized in the 1960s to suit them. Everything was made fantastically easy. I preferred to grow up. I felt it was time. The abridged version of words from the at times divisive English journalist Peter Hitchens, expressed in an interview with me in January this year. At the time of recording, those exact comments didn't really resonate with me. Erroneously, perhaps, I was more focused on moving the conversation to our common position of being coronavirus lockdown skeptics. Things that go viral do tend to dominate the discourse, after all, for better or for worse. Shortly afterwards, however, I began to reflect more deeply on that particular Hitchens observation. In some respects, as a 36-year-old, single, childless, relatively free man who reaped some benefits from Celtic Tiger Ireland, it could be argued that, on the surface anyway, I'm ripe to be in that not growing up brigade. Compared to my parents, and with a lot of thanks owed to them, although I didn't think it at the time, everything was made fairly fantastically easy, at least until my mid-20s. I went from secondary school straight to university. While not exactly stress-free, it was far from a chastening experience either. After obtaining a BA degree followed by a higher diploma, I only had a few months' wait before landing a full-time broadcast journalist job. For sure, working in a busy newsroom comes with many pressures, but I couldn't say that I was learning life the hard way. It is, of course, all relative. That much is true. Whatever the case, my decision to go travelling solo around the world after a switch of radio stations didn't go the way I thought it would, led to, arguably, the first time I really had to be fully responsible for myself. I was 23. Brendan versus the big bad world, and first up it was the big bad world of South America, a baptism of fire, you might say. I certainly learned much from that experience. It's open to debate whether I became more responsible, but I think it's fair to say I became more streetwise. Either that, or I was downright lucky on umpteen occasions. An 18-month working interlude back in the relative comfort of Ireland followed that 9-month global adventure. After that, in 2011, came the return to South America. Fast forward 10 years later, and with Hitchens' opening salvo in mind, can I define myself as responsible and grown up? It depends on how one views it, really. Money-wise, I'm independent, living within rather restricted means as I must. There's no nanny state to speak of in Colombia to help those in need in any case. Even if there was, it would be rather impertinent of me to be looking for help, considering I come from a financially better-off country. Any foreigner from a first-world economy based here who's looking for government handouts, well, that surely is a sign that one lacks responsibility. In some ways, Colombia is a capitalist country in its rawest form. It's every man, woman and child for him or herself. Okay, there are those few in the upper classes who have had everything pretty much handed to them. You'll find such types the world over. I like to think I have a fair appreciation of the balance between my rights and responsibilities. As a traditional conservative, I believe this is what Hitchens was getting at in terms of people not growing up, although he didn't explicitly say this in our interview. In a UK and Republic of Ireland context, it comes back to the nanny state. People have become comfortable with it controlling practically every aspect of their lives. As needy and selfish grandchildren, they cry and throw the toys out of the pram each time they feel wronged. Rather than becoming more independent, more responsible, they confer upon Big Nanny State ever greater powers of control. For some, this is blissful. It means virtually nothing is ever their fault anymore. Everything is in the hands of Big Nanny State, and as long as she hands out the occasional sweet treat, all is fine. For others, the realization that their own lives have practically been outsourced to those who know best in return for an easy existence is slowly dawning. However, what was easily surrendered is proving much more difficult to take back. What it requires is the radical spirit of the immature, irresponsible youth, but one not anchored to the extremes. The centre ground must find its bite before it's too late. The responsible, grown-up adults in the room need to start behaving as such. The question is, have we enough of such types around to do this?